Hey everybody, welcome to Comics Covered, our show where Matt and I typically it's just Matt and I go through what's happening in comics with CovrPrice. But today we have a really fun show. We took a little bit of a break for the holiday, but now we're back with armed with a ton of data and interesting insights because we are about to wrap up the year. We're going to talk about what happened in 2024. We brought a bunch of comic book experts and all around nice guys. We got Mr. Longshort over there, Ben. We got Lando over at Black Crown Comics. And of course, we got Phil from One True Nerd King and Matt DeVoe. So Matt, tell us what we're going to do today.
Well, hopefully we're going to go through the year in review. So we are pushing it live now, but it's so flipping big that we, there's an error message popping up. So this is the fun of running this thing right before we go live, which is the fun of this. But no stress. We have a backup plan. So hopefully that'll work.
The good news is it's right hot off the press. Like this doesn't exist anywhere. It's being literally birthed right now, and you're watching the latest things of it.
That's true. I sent you the link, John, if you want to try opening it. It's in the chat here.
Oh, okay. Let's go around. Mr. Longshort, how you doing? How was your holiday?
It was great. Thanks. Yeah, it was really good. A lot of time with family and friends, and can't ask for much more than that. But I'm really happy to be on the show tonight. Big admirer of what you guys do. Matt and I talk, fairly regularly. I do a show which is sponsored by CovrPrice, and can't speak more highly of what you guys have built. And just happy to be here tonight. So thanks for the invite.
Our pleasure. Thanks for coming. You were just saying, it was funny, you and Matt are like comic soulmates because you guys always have the same
it's really bizarre. We have a similar eye for comics, and it's a lot of people joke about it. And just similar tastes for oddities and obscurities in the hobby. I think we both like fairly off the run, tough to find books, and just sort of a passion for going out there and digging and seeing what you can find. I mean, it's probably the funnest part of the hobby for me is just getting out there and digging through long boxes and see what you can unearth. I don't know, there's something about it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I try to get everyone to do. There's no better way to learn than to go through a dollar bin, a quarter bin, pick up whatever cover you find interesting, and then bringing them home and looking them up. And then sometimes you'll come across a book, you're like, wow, this is worth $100. You'll be shocked.
More often than you might think. And in the entire show that I do with Aaron Yee and Mercenaut and Red Hood and lots of other guys who hop in and on there is really about helping people raise awareness of books people could probably find out there digging. And that's really the entire purpose of it is, you can have a lot of fun just going out there looking for stuff.
For sure. It'd be fun to have a show just watching you guys go through long boxes. People watching Matt do that at a convention is hypnotic because he's just like, stop. You can see it processing and he goes, just go through the whole thing.
It's fun because, I mean, there's no better feeling, honestly, than walking up to a bin that no one's been in yet, or they just put it out. It's the best.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like a skiing analogy, like fresh tracks, right? Nobody's been through the snow before. You're the first one going through it. Yeah, you'll probably come up with something pretty good.
For sure. And
there was a magical time when it was John, myself, Big Leg. We walked up to WonderCon. WonderCon 2019, I think. And John's like, "We're here to do business. Do not search for comics. We're here to like."
I know I'd lose him for about an hour.
He's like, "Let's wait to dig until the end of the day." And literally, the first booth we walked to said dollar variants, and we're like, "Sorry, dude, we got to do this." And Big Leg and I were going through it, and we're pulling out 1 in 500s, 1 in 100s, third claw Wolverine variants. It was the most glorious pull we ever did. And it was just, I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to be here for an hour. Like there's
nothing, and that's why CovrPrice took 8 years to launch.
That's right.
Now hold on, Matt. Which con was this?
WonderCon.
WonderCon
2025.
Well, I mean, we've been back. I've been looking for that booth. Like, it's kind of it's like an oasis in the desert. Like, you know, it pops up every now and then you never find it again. So it's it was just wonky. And we were asking, like, where did you get these from? And they're like, the person was just working the booth. And I'm like, no.
The magical salesperson. What about you, Lando? How was your holiday?
It was horrible. You guys took 2 weeks off. Like, who does that? No content for 2 weeks, but no, it was it was a great time, man. I got to hang out with the kids, the wife, the family. I'm Italian, so when we get together, there's like 60 people in my house. It makes no sense. I don't know. We do things a little extreme, but it was great. Definitely.
You guys celebrate Christmas in Canada?
Yeah, we celebrate in Canada. You look, Mr. Longshort just mentioned snow. You have snow there? I didn't know that. But yeah, man, it was a great time. Honestly, definitely took advantage of Boxing Day sales. I don't know if you guys did when it came to comics, but yes, there's 2 events per year I look forward to when it comes to comics. Obviously, Boxing Day and Free Comic Book Day. Free Comic Book Day is basically Black Friday for our hobby, right? That's what I call it, because it's like you go out, you get to find so much cool things, and within the holidays, I splurged.
Good man. Well, your numbers are probably reflected in the stats that we're going to show in a second. Then,
yeah.
So, John, if you refresh it, the site is up.
Okay. Check.
We'll keep, I think we went around. No.
Well, wait. We got Phil.
Yeah, right. And of course, we go to Phil for sure.
It's all right.
Phil, on the mend, Nerd King is what we call him.
Phil's been with us for quite a while now. So yeah,
it happens. Yeah, it was a good time. Obviously, I unfortunately got injured before Christmas. I was laid up for a while, so that kind of stole a little bit of the Christmas cheer. But things are good. I'm healing. I'm doing well. Getting back to content and kind of getting the algorithm rolling again. You know how that goes, and all the fun stuff. Working on some new things. Got some new equipment and some new sponsors. So I'm going to be starting to roll out some new content here in the next few weeks, actually, and just been working a lot on that the last couple of months. So
nice.
Yeah, that's where I've been.
We were joking that if the pain meds kick in, Phil might have to take off the show because he might get a little loopy.
I might, if I start talking way too much, then that's a problem.
Oh, okay. And of course, before we jump into it, hey everyone who's watching, we now have a new time for the show. We were doing Fridays at 5:30, but Matt, are we doing Mondays at 6 or Mondays at 5:30 moving forward?
I think we'll do Mondays at 6. I think it's a good time that works out. Yeah, if that works for you. Yeah, my wife was like, please stop doing Fridays. So
Fridays are the hardest time to go because then all of a sudden you have nothing to do with your family when they want to go out on a Friday night.
Yeah. Well, we usually have that afternoon activities, and then it's like also everyone's kind of coming back home right when the show goes on. It's like, okay, what are we doing about dinner? And then they're just kind of waiting around. So yeah, they're happy that we're moving to Mondays.
I get it. Although I'm a little bummed, man. Like Fridays, going on 8 or 9. I'm just settling in for the night, have a cold drink, throw you guys on. So I'll miss that a little bit, but
we'll just have to replay it on Friday then.
Yeah.
But hey, there's more time to buy Gwenpool books on Fridays, right? I know you like those.
the only person in the entire hobby, but whatever.
I mean, so as we get into 2024, this is not in this year's wrap up, but it was one thing that was interesting, especially the last quarter of the year. It was interesting to see video games have an effect on aftermarket sales.
Jeff the Shark is just doing great.
I mean, I've never seen that happen ever in the history of collecting. I've never seen a video game.
Except for Miles. People forget when Miles took off.
Well, yes,
like crazy in COVID. It was because that Sony game came out. I mean, that was And I was saying people at the time, like, this may do more for the character than any movie would do, right? A hit video game.
It was at that same time when they announced, when also Amy Pascal said there might be a live action. It was literally at like a couple weeks apart.
Yeah.
So it was a nice one.
But Marvel Rivals is like the fastest to 10 million video game ever. Like concurrent users ever. Like smoking every, like it took Overwatch like 6 months to get there. It took 6 weeks for Marvel Rivals.
No,
like,
not even. Marvel Rivals did it in a week's time. And then I think they did like 3 days, 10 million or something like that. And then the week after they were at 20 million already.
Yeah, I mean it's the big. It had to have an effect. It was so huge, huge.
It's crazy. I was doing a year in review of just the 2024 for New Year's, and they were saying like the biggest music hits of the year sold like 200,000 label records or whatever. And I was like, that doesn't seem like a lot, especially when you compare it to like video games or comic books. It's like music. I mean, when you compare across industries, it's just the comics and video games really just dominate.
But John, it's shifted. Now it's how many streams are you getting on Spotify? You're at 20 million now. You're right?
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody streams it. Yeah.
I buy my CDs still. Damn it. No.
but I was just the way I was going to connect it was like we saw this in Fortnite with Gwenpool. It's so funny that like it took Fortnite to like get people. Despite Ben's effort,
Well, I mean, she's perfect for that game, though. My kids were telling me for like months. I'm like, there's no way they're going to put Gwenpool in Fortnite, but she's perfect for it. I mean, she's pretty violent. Yeah. She likes guns. She likes to blow shit up. So, it makes perfect sense. And it really took off. I mean, her book sold well for not even for 1 week, for several weeks. I was observing, those sales being pretty steady. So.
And then what's interesting about it, because it's an audience that doesn't know comics, their first go is to just look up that character when they're searching in like eBay. So that's why you're seeing all these surges in Gwenpool #1 and Jeff the Landshark #1, and on multiple Jeff the Landshark #1s, because people didn't know what they were buying. They just wanted to read
Avengers.
They didn't know.
My funny story about Jeff was I was at a comic shop. This was before any of the stuff had gone on. Like Rivals this was probably like in September. I was digging, and there's this girl on the back of the store, and she just bombs up to the front of the store. Honey, it's Jeff. And she had the It's Jeff comic book and ran up to her boyfriend. She's like, and she was like gushing, like, can I get this? Holy, like just absolutely like out of her mind. And I felt for a long time that character had some broader appeal than just typical comic book fans. So
he's the next he's the next Grogu, Baby Yoda of the Marvel universe, in my opinion. He has the cute factor, he has the availability a lot of comic book characters don't have in the MCU right now, to kind of bring in and introduce like that gateway drug to comics. Jeff is easily the best thing they've got like that. And I've felt like that for a while. I remember people would make fun of me. They'd be like, why do you have that West Coast Avengers in a 9.8? Like, oh, that's Jeff the Shark's first appearance. Like, why? I don't understand. Jeff the Shark.
I mean, it's Kelly Thompson's, baby. She loves the character. She's looking after him. So, I expect they're going to try to monetize that one way or another, but I don't know how. I wouldn't bet on a movie necessarily, but other merchandise.
Epic Voice Guy, he's partnered with a friend of his that they're making these huge puppets.
Yeah, dude, plushies, everything. Let's go.
Yeah, but he's putting his voice into it though, right? So he's pre-recording in there, and as you move the puppet, it says some of the lines that he uses in Marvel Rivals and things of that nature. I think it's like $200 right now. You can pre-order, but it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into it. If we got the list up, do you want me to pull up, Matt, or do you want to do it?
Just because my internet's a little wonky, I'll let you roll through it. But I'll do a little readout. So first off, we're just thanking everyone for joining us in the year of content, year of comics. Other than like we were just talking about this video game, some of this list kind of one of my biggest takeaways when reviewing it is that it's kind of a big return to reading comics, a big return to comic spiking, because people simply want the book to read. Like they just can't get it. so they got to go to the aftermarket to purchase it. That was probably, like, looking through all this data, that was probably my biggest takeaway. Going through this, you'll see very little speculation that was driving sales. I mean, Dazzler didn't make the list because Dazzler made the list last year in 2023, because all that speculation happened around trailers before the movie. But it was just kind of interesting to kind of look through that. And then we hear a lot of people talking about the comics are dead or the fair market values are dropping on everything. Just to kind of share some numbers. In 2024, we tracked value of 2.8 million comics. And that was a collective worth of 174.5 million across all the aftermarkets that we tracked. That compares to last year's 2.7 million comics valued at 149.3 million. So we saw a slight bump of about 600,000 comics, but with a higher cash spent. At about 25 million more were spent this year on comics.
Yeah. Crazy.
So,
Wow, 25 million more.
25 million more than last year. And if you want to talk, everyone uses 2021 as the benchmark. That was 130 million. So this was 175. That was 130. Yeah. So more money is being spent in the aftermarket. The market's clearly not dead. It's just
that's fascinating. Actually, sorry. I mean, that's really that's a fascinating statistic. Actually, 175 million versus 130 at the peak of the boom, arguably.
At the peak of the boom.
Yeah.
Well, we look at, if you want to, there's some of the things we're talking about out of the convention is people are wondering why some of these big books, especially they talk about Action Comics, right? We'll talk about that in this report. In a 3.0, I think it lost like $800,000 or something like that from 2021 to now. But you look at these big books, we're talking about how a lot of people don't have a lot of extra cash to spend. A lot of people aren't going to convention and buying one book with $500, $1,000. They're going in there with $200-$300 maybe, and they just want to try and max that out and have as much fun as they can with that. And that's why we saw 700 variants for New York Comic Con and almost 600 variants for San Diego Comic Con. People wanted to buy a book for like $20 that might be worth $60, or sometimes they didn't even care. They just wanted the cover. They were just going around buying books for the cover, whatever reason it was. So my biggest takeaway is that I think like a lot of the high-end books and a lot of those big key books, we've effectively been priced out of it. Us normal collectors who don't have $10,000, even $1,000 to spend willy-nilly on comic books, and that's kind of my biggest, when I look through this, I think I would love to get your thoughts on that as we wrap it up and see if you kind of get what your take and feel is on this list, because it'll be an interesting, and we're so insular in all this data. It'd be interesting to see how you guys approach it.
We should just mention that this is not the entire comic book market. You're going to see units sold and stuff like that. This is just what we're capturing across multiple marketplaces. But there's obviously Instagram sales, whatnot sales, eBay live sales, all these other things. I mean, we do kind of capture some of those, but overall, this is a percentage of the market, so it's kind of a trend. But even with that, from what we can confirm, almost $200 million worth of sales this year. So that's pretty awesome in the aftermarket. So sure, let's jump into it.
Yeah. So we're going to cover, just to kind of bring you guys into it, we're talking comics that sold the most units, specifically relating to 20 books released in 2024. There's two. We'll go over Marvel, DC, Independence, and then we'll do all the books that sold in 2024, the most units. We say the most units, that's an individual comic book. So how, when comics are selling on the net, just that one comic book, how many of those, what sold the most independently, not price wise, even though we do have the price with these things. And then we'll talk about volume, which will go over the books that sold the most in terms of volume. And we kind of bring out, like, if there was 50 books and it tracked a $17,000 tracked all together, we kind of lump those all the money in together of graded and raw, just to give kind of like, that's how we build this list is what sold the most dollar-wise out of everything, and that's how this stuff is kind of in terms of volume on how we determine the ranking.
And Brooklyn has a question: is it including just sales or also auctions?
Sales, auctions, buy it nows, best offers, you name it, it's everything.
If you're in an alleyway trading a comic, we're tracking it.
And but with that said, even then, we don't track 100% of everything. So like there, our fair market value is meant to capture, hopefully, what is the best representation of what's moving in the market. If we're tracking, there's 100 sales. I don't know exactly what that number is, but hopefully we're getting 60% of that, 50% of that. I don't know what that number is, but the goal is to get as much as we can.
We cast a wide net and hope for the best.
Right. So yeah, I think that's kind of my overall
one quick question, Matt, or for John. Can you track? Do you have analytics where you're looking at these sales by era? Golden, silver, bronze, copper, modern. Can you parse the data that way?
We actually have a update coming probably this quarter that will let that happen. We're redoing our entire database. So yeah, we can generate reports that way, but our goal is to make it accessible to anybody who's going to use the site. So coming up, you will be able to. Yes, we can do it, but we have to kind of build a report ourselves.
Okay. It'd be interesting. I'm just curious, like where them. But anyways.
Ideally, we're going to have a list that's going to be called eras, and you just or ages, and you'll just be able to go and say, okay, show me all the golden age. And I mean, there are some ways to kind of do it. You can kind of do some hacks on the site to do it.
We've approached that. We've applied that search engine to things like the shaker lists. So we do plan to extend it out to more stuff. I mean, we really plan to boost our search function in a major way. There's also we've kind of already done some of it. Like there's if you, for example, if you search for Spider-Man #1 Campbell, it's going to bring up all the Spider-Man 1 Campbell covers that are out there. And then the more detailed you get, you'll get closer and closer to that book. So there is a way to kind of, start compiling some. It does have some flexible search functionality now. That's just something as we're fixing things. We're like letting some stuff go through. So
I'm looking at these stupid ads that are popping up. I'm getting chair workouts for men over 50, and with the body like that, who needs hair? How do they know I'm bald? Those bastards.
You said we need ads. And there you go.
Look at this, and I pay the price. All right. With that said, we have like 11 lists to go through.
So let's jump into it. So we're going to top comics of 2024 units sold. This is comics released in 2024 that sold the most units for Marvel and DC. So we're just going to scroll through this. We got this is wrong. It's the wrong cover in there. Let me see if there.
I can get it.
So there's you're going to see all the errors in it because they literally just pushed it live. So that's an artifact. So this is actually Deadpool Wolverine. What was it? World War III Wolverine? Is that what it's called? Yes. Yeah. So just scroll through it. We'll just go through it. Deadpool Wolverine, World War III #1. We have All In Special #1. Introduces all the absolute stuff. You have Ultimate X-Men #1, Peach Momoko. You have Ultimate Spider-Man #2. You have Absolute Wonder Woman #1. You have Doom #1. You have Absolute Superman #1. We have Ultimate Black Panther #1. Ultimate Spider-Man #1.
And #1.
#1 is Absolute Batman. Units sold for this is 1,507, with a total sales tracked of like $38.6 thousand dollars.
Wow.
So, that this was just a beast in the aftermarket. And you kind of just scroll back up. This was the year of just Marvel DC putting out big event books, right? And it was nice to see actually like good stories being churned out in these as well. Like everyone was pretty excited about this, and everyone's pretty favorable.
I think people want better content from the books. I mean, I think that's what you're seeing here, right?
Yeah,
you had a couple of really good books to come out this year, and it just pulled everybody in. So, the community wants it. The writing has been subpar for too long, in many people's opinion. So yeah, there's a desire for it. I'd also point out, like, they're not going to hit numbers like this, but like the Grommets, it's an indie title.
Yes.
I mean, how well that was written. There's a lot that I think that people gravitated towards this year. So this makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. If you look at this list, there's a variety of books,
Yeah,
a lot of
scroll
number
back
ones.
and forth.
Yeah, there's a lot of number ones, but look at the new universes that we're seeing here, right? You see the absolute stuff, you're seeing the ultimate stuff. That Doom book snuck by everybody, and I don't understand how. Anytime I see Jonathan Hickman tied to something, I'm automatically in, but especially with the Doom hype, I don't know if that played into that, because the read itself was absolutely incredible. It immediately starts with an Easter egg. You know what I mean? It was just such a well-written comic, but all of these books brought in a lot of, readers. It was not spec-based, like you said, Matt. And it's funny because you said it at the beginning of the show, right? How people are saying comics are dead or whatever. Look at the booming year you just gave us data for. This All In is the one you guys should be buying, by the way. If you're a believer in the absolute stuff, please try to pick that one up before anything else. But so many great books came out from Marvel and DC this year. And it's pretty much like you were just saying, Ben, how, a lot of the stuff's been stagnant. It's, I hate Amazing Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man. You know what I mean? So Spidey's my guy, and it's my least favorite comic.
It's been terrible for so long. I mean, it's so terrible. I mean, it's a kind of an embarrassment, unfortunately, to Marvel that, that they can't get that book right. It's the flagship title, but yeah, you're not the only person that feels that way. I think too many people feel that way.
Exactly. Now look how many people came into this ready to accept, right? And when Hickman brought us Ultimate Spider-Man, dude, he hit exactly what we've wanted for the longest time, right? Peter Parker, older, sure, okay, he hasn't gone through everything that we've known in the past, but we got Peter Parker, settled down, Mary Jane, kids, and everything else. It's so well written, like I said, month to month, and it follows the month the book drops, right? We're in December, the issue comes out, they're in the December timeline. Everything that has come out has been stellar. The reading sake of collecting right now, we are being spoiled. I think 2024 is probably one of the best years in a long time.
Yeah, I would say I don't feel like we're being spoiled, but I think we got a taste of some good stuff, and it just reminded people, what well-written comic books can do for the community. Like, spoiled to me, like when I got back to the hobby, you had Bendis and Miller, writing countless books for Marvel, and they were all bangers, every single one of them. I just feel like this year we finally got a few things to sink our teeth into, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come, because I think that's what's going to carry the hobby going forward, is just like books people need to read. And so this was very encouraging. I mean, very, very, very encouraging.
I think Marvel and DC just got their shit together this year. Honestly, that's because they kind of caught up with we can't just keep on dropping number ones and new appearances every single day, because that's what it was for a while. Like what 23, 22 was like every single issue of Batman was the first appearance of so and so and so and so and so and so, and it was starting to become kind of just then all of a sudden the same thing with Marvel. Every single thing was a key issue,
and then kill them off like 2 issues later.
Yeah. And then they're gone, and then all of a sudden, now they're realizing, what, people would probably read more books if they weren't just a key issue. We had to throw in a new person every week if we just wrote good stories. And to me, 24 is the year they started to kind of figure that out. They started to kind of catch up in my mind with indies. Indie publishing was always more story heavy, and much more I don't know, more engaging in that way. And I feel like Marvel and DC were just kind of like, what? Yeah, we got to get back to our mains. We got to get back to the people characters people care about, and let's just give them some good stories.
Do you think there's been any carryover or learnings from like Ultimate Fallout 4? Because the Ultimate line, when you think about it, it's one of the highest, valued variants, right? Is Ultimate Fallout 4. Do you think that also drove people, in addition to the story, but the hope that one of these would take off like that?
I got to be honest. I think the fact that this Spider-Man book was fairly under-ordered, by Spider-Man standards. I think
It was.
when that Ultimate title first came out, it was fantastic. I could not I read it immediately every time I got it. It was a great run, and then it probably carried on too long. I think that the fact that this was called Ultimate Spider-Man probably held it back a little bit out of the gate, because this book sells for quite a bit. This cover A.
The average FMV is 177 right now, but the crazy thing is the total sales that we collected for the year, 116,000 in the aftermarket.
Yeah, so
they should have called it Absolute Spider-Man.
Yeah. the only thing I still find concerning, we know it's inevitable where the main timeline and this Ultimate Universe is going to collide, probably even this summer. I saw the Free Comic Book Day pass on FOC. It looks like that's where they're headed, but the main staples right now the main attraction for both Marvel and DC are alternate universes, not the main timelines. You're looking at Absolute, you're looking at Ultimate related stuff. That's what everybody's flocking to. I don't hear anybody talking about, Batman itself in the main DC stuff. We just had Zdarsky on there, and there were good things coming out of those books. No one's talking about it.
It's accessible, right? People who've been out of it for a while, they can come into this. It's a fresh universe.
Yep.
It's accessible. You're not bogged down with a lot of continuity.
Yeah.
It's a very easy access point.
It's like taking a friend to go see an MCU movie now.
Right.
I'd rather wait for the James Gunn universe to start up and just go see one stinking movie than have to watch 10 years of movies to go see the most.
For sure.
And speaking of what makes it fun ends up bogging it down. I will say that these relaunches happen quite frequently, and I love the excitement around them.
Yeah.
But historically, they tend to peter out as well. So you need the main characters to continue to be strong.
Yeah.
So I don't ultimately know what they have to do to sort of put a breath of fresh air into them, but
Spider Boy.
If history's any guide, this Absolute Universe, as good as it is, this new Ultimate Universe, it's probably going to hit its fatigue point at some point.
It's like the original Ultimate Universe.
Yeah. I was just going to say, these are great books to hand people if you want to get them into something. Like this issue of Ultimate Spider-Man is a great thing to hand. I mean, granted, it's worth $60, so maybe the fourth print. You're hanging
my books.
Get it on Marvel.com. Just read it on your iPad.
All right. Marvel.com.
Should we jump to the? Sorry.
We should. JSS Brooklyn, remind us to come back to this at the end. It's a big conversation. One I would love to talk as we wrap up the year end and what happens for 2025. But that is a great point. So independent comics, you're going to see a trend here. So we got Transformers 8.
So real quick, these are the ones that independent comics that were released in 2024 that sold the most units.
Sold the most units. Yeah. Yep. Thank you for repeating that. I appreciate it. So we got Transformers 8, number 10. Cobra Commander, number 1 is number 9. Number 8 is Void Rivals, number 7. Number 7 is Transformers, number 7. And then we got number 6, we got Mark Spears Monsters, number 2. And then number 5, we got Rat City, number 1.
Beautiful.
Then number 4 is Ain't No Grave, number 1. And then we got number 3, Transformers, number 5. Number 2 is Rook Exodus, number 1. And then number 1 is Transformers, number 6. So
interesting.
Just to before we get into it, you'll notice again, this is a reader's list. You can tell what people are into. You might not see everyone talking about these books. Oh my God, I just found Transformers 6. But the books are doing so well that they're selling out in stores. That's forcing people to go to the aftermarket to purchase these in high volume, which is what we're seeing happening here. We'd love to just open it up and see what again, and scroll back through, John, if you don't mind, and see what you guys think.
I mean, Ain't No Grave and Transformers were amazing this year. Those were two of my favorites. I'm more of an indie guy. I did check out the Marvel, and I kind of just read them in the shop and moved on because I just don't. I get my hopes up too much. But when it comes to Image and it comes to IDW and Boom and a lot of other different of my indie publishing sides of things, I was very impressed again this year, but Ain't No Grave, I had a ton of fun with. And Transformers, I have never been an avid Transformers comic book reader, but this entire run this year, I've been a big fan. Been a big fan.
I mean, Daniel Warren Johnson is no joke. He's actually local. Like my LCS is.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he grew up in the town next to me, and he always pops in and does things in the local LCS.
I'll send you some books.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a good, like, what I like about Skybound is that they're not trying to curate an aftermarket for this. They just keep releasing second print, third print, fourth print, fifth print, sixth print, seventh print, 10th. All they want you to do is get on board and read it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here is that, okay, you missed out on this issue, but then there was like, I mean, it's amazing to me on how much traction. I didn't realize, I thought something was wrong with this data. Like, because I was like, how are these are just regular Transformer issues. No one's paying attention to this stuff. But apparently it's like, this is the quiet stuff that doesn't get someone on a bullpen saying like, oh my God, are you reading Transformers, or look at what this is doing. It's not selling for anything other than cover price, but that's not the point of what this list is. It's in terms of what's moving in units, and these sell like constantly.
I'm thinking also like the fact that they spent so much time world building with Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and then putting them together. I mean, like, what a fun, and the way they introduced it as well as a surprise, the Energon universe, like every aspect of the story was an Easter egg within an Easter egg, being, being excited about something, and actually building hype around it. Almost like not even like advertising. It was all market driven hype and talk.
But that's the thing. Look at this list. I would say maybe 3/4 of this is surrounded by the Energon universe, and really right now, it's probably one of my favorite things happening on the indie side. You got the Ghost Machine stuff.
Yeah, Ghost Machine's on here.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so much good stuff. Of course, Mark Spears having an incredible year. People excited about this futuristic Spawn. Ain't No Grave. Scotty Young, who doesn't love him? But it was actually a really good read. So for myself, Ben, I'll retract. Okay, maybe we're not spoiled, but we're eating good right now.
It feels like, I would say it feels like we are, because I think we've been deprived for so long.
Exactly.
But I think there can be a lot more. I think there can be a lot more that comes. Hopefully we see it.
But I'm okay with the level we're at for the sake of my wallet. But I will say, you spoke Daniel Warren Johnson. Daniel Warren Johnson does so much great stuff. Like the Transformers run is great. But man, I remember even reading Duo Powerbomb, right? Which recently came out not too long ago. And
I cried at that comic.
Dude, it's heavy. It's so
very
good.
heavy. If you have not read Duo Powerbomb, it will make you cry.
Yeah, there's that. And I'm a wrestling fan, right? So he really came at me with, best of both worlds, comics, wrestling, let's go. But even now, there's the moon is following us. And like that one is very good. I'm enjoying
He's a super talented guy.
Yeah, Gary Dugan's a really nice guy too.
Super nice. When I hear people talking about what they like the most this year, it's always the Energon universe above Absolute Batman, above Ultimate Spider-Man. Like it's Energon. That's what most people are saying.
At New York for Energon, and all the writers and creators were up there, and it was, the energy in the room was palpable. Like people were excited. People were dressed up as Cobra Commander, doing the voice as they were asking questions. It was hilarious. But
guys, just a fun story. I have a colleague who's he grew up in the 80s loving Transformers, G.I. Joe, all that stuff. When he heard about this relaunch through me, he hasn't collected comics in 20 years plus. Wow. He immediately looked at me. He's like, Lando, please pick me up Cobra Commander 1. Please pick me up G.I. Joe 1. Please. He wants in, right? So
you're like, go to the store, you idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go.
That's also, it's bringing people back in. And someone in the comments said, nostalgia. Nostalgia is a huge factor in this. There's so many factors, I think, that are playing into this. But I do agree. Story-driven, well-crafted, world building, or universe building, I guess, in this case.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But jump on it now, because it's accessible now. But they're like 12 issues in on Transformer now. Like you're getting to the point where it's gonna take some work to catch up. So jump on now before it gets too far. Same with Ghost Machine. If you haven't jumped into Ghost Machine, just try.
Please.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you want to do Marvel DC variants that released in 2024 that sold the most?
Yeah, so this is variants, and when I say variants, I say incentives, convention exclusives, store exclusives, and air editions. So all that stuff kind of flows into that list. The things that it doesn't include is newsstands and subsequent printings. I actually had that separate data. I was going to do another. It was pretty much all the same stuff that's on these lists.
That's like crazy.
It was like Ultimate Spider-Man 1 second print, Absolute Batman 1 second print. So I was like, this is all the same stuff. So but yeah, so this is the variants that released for Marvel and DC just in 2024. Yeah, go ahead and go through. I mean, you're gonna see a very similar theme here. You got Absolute Batman. Number 9 is Doom number 1, the Adi Grana. You got Here's Your First Incentive. 8 is Blood Hunt. Remember how hot that thing was? He's releasing one. Ultimate Universe number 7. Remember Kid Venom Origins number 1, the surprise book. That was number 6. You got number 5 is the Jim Lee foil. People love shiny things. Number 4, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther 1. Boss Logic needs to do way more covers, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. That book was so beautiful when that thing came out. I pre-ordered that thing blind, and when it showed up, I was like, "Whew, glad I did that."
You should be doing every book. Well, every book. Seriously. Cool. Moon Knight,
the cloud and everything kind of behind her. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Number 3, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu. Number 0, The Secret. People love the Secret books. Number 2, Ultimate Spider-Man. Number 1, the regular J. Scott Campbell exclusive.
Wow.
And then number Edge of Spider-Verse number 1, the surprise variant.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was.
I wouldn't have guessed that in 50 tries.
Same.
434 copies were sold and tracked out a total value of $17,000, like $17.6 thousand. So here's the thing: these books fly under the radar. Why these secret books are so popular is because every store got 2. They get 1 for Diamond, they get 1 for Lunar.
Penguin.
Right? Penguin.
Yep.
So a lot of these stores were getting 2. They're not 1 per stores typically, and so a lot of people were getting multiple copies. So there were plenty out there, but everyone wanted one because people. It's that FOMO thing that usually pops up the week of. It seems like it's impossible to find, and then people have to go online and get a copy, and they pay a premium. I mean, even now, it's still. I mean, I could tell you how much it's going for now. I think it's like $25 still. I mean, that's not bad for a surprise variant, but it was selling for about $60.
But I'm happy you brought that up because sometimes when I go to my LCS and they'll look like I'll see the 1 per store, I'm like, is that the 1 per store or 1 per account? What am I looking at right here? But this book, I'm surprised. Yes, it's the surprise variant, but I remember there was a lot of hype behind this Universe 1 because of Weapon 8. Remember the Cyclops Spider-Man guy? So yeah,
right. Yeah, he's on the regular cover, or the second print and the Chad Hardin cover. I thought it was Cyclops as Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
It looked like Cyclops. I mean, the same colors. I do like buying the secret variants. They're books that can't be ordered. I know every store has 2, and if you do the math, you've got probably 3,000 of them floating around out there, most likely, maybe more. But there's still books that, they're not like variants where stores can target a bunch of them. Like they get 2, and then that's it.
And sometimes they don't even know that they have a secret variant. Like they just put it out there. And we work with retailers and stuff. And sometimes they're like, "Is there a way for you to identify a secret variant so we can either like pull it out or something?" And we're like, "No, I mean they don't distinguish it in the distribution. A lot of times it's just mixed in with it." Yeah,
I mean, sometimes they're very subtle. They're doing it on purpose, right? Just to kind of sneak him in there, see if they can slip by. And then, these Spider-Man ones, these Marvel ones, they usually come bagged. I mean, they're probably a little bit more obvious when you get your order. But some of them are true secrets with just subtle differences on the cover.
Yeah, I remember everybody going crazy when the Capullo Wolverine version came out. Remember, that was a surprise to all shops. They didn't know they were getting that.
The green one.
And there's something to remember why these are on this list is because they were also, most of them were pretty cheap to purchase. Like a lot of these you could have bought for $5, $10, $15, $20 for the most part. It's not like you would see like, oh my God, this was the hottest variant, this 125 is selling for $100. The second it hits a point where people have to tap out price-wise, then you start seeing a big decline in how many are sold by units. You'll only see like maybe a handful sell every week. So these were nice because they were high demand and very affordable, with some exceptions.
I think that's why this year's numbers were the numbers that they were, which you were getting to earlier, Matt. It's just because comics are, because the market has corrected in many ways. It's become more affordable to be a comic book collector again, right? Yeah, it's everybody's. Some people got in at the wrong time, perhaps, and got a little hot and heavy in different places. But it's a great time to be a comic book collector because you can get your hands on a lot of things that you couldn't have 3 years ago.
Right. The one exception was if you go to the top, that Blood Hunt, it's $100. It was $100 comic every day, and it did sell 283 at 45,000. I mean, this was one of the things that there was a lot of people talking about. Like, there's a lot of copies floating out there that Marvel's like was distributing behind the scenes. That was some of like, I don't know how much of that is true, but that was like there was strangely a lot of copies out there suddenly.
Well, weren't they offering this if you bought like the one in the second print or something?
Oh, you're right. That's right. They re-released it. They gave you basically all their overstock if you ordered a certain amount. I forget. That's why the surge. Yes, exactly. You're right. So there was a huge surge in sales right when they did that, and then the price dropped significantly as soon as they did that.
But correct me if I'm wrong. They were also doing something. I think you had to order X amount of like the red labels, right?
Yes, the red band. Yeah. This was because this was a red band. You can only get it by buying. The ratio only applied to the red bands, allegedly. I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
It's still a $95 book, though. Like, that's the thing. It's still doing pretty good. So,
and that's the homage as well, right? To the classic
Crime. Was it Crime 22?
Stories 18. I don't remember.
It's just 22, right?
22. Yeah, 22.
What do you guys think of? Just a random thought, like with anime. If you go to any convention, you see anime is like 60% of the floor, kind of stuff. And I see a lot of the anime art kind of making its way into comics more and more. Momoko kind of might be a gateway into it in some extent. Do you guys think that the visual direction of comics in 2025 are going to go more anime style, or do you think we're going to stick with the original, like the typical art that we see now?
I wish they'd do more, to be honest with you. I think it would do well. I personally like anime style art. I think it lends itself well to comics. It doesn't seem like there's been a big push from the big two to go that way, but Marvel Rivals does have that sort of Eastern art style to it, and it's been such a big hit. I think it might be hard for them to ignore, but given the lag, we may not see it till like the back half of the year or something.
Wasn't that Ultimate X-Men? Sorry, wasn't that Ultimate X-Men? It was very manga-ish.
Well, that's exactly
it was, but I mean, it's just more Peach's style, which is kind of her own thing. I mean, it has a little bit of a vibe to it, but
I think it'll always be a little bit. I think it's going to become more niche, right? I think it's going to become a bigger part of the network, but I don't think it'll become like majority in any way, shape, or form. Not yet. Not for another few more years.
I don't see it. In fact, if you go back to like early, like 2000, 2002, there was Marvel Mangaverse. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, dude, remember that Spider-Man run, that 5-issue run was one of my favorite things ever written. Like with Daredevil, God, that was brilliant. I mean,
but like you can find the full run of, let's say, the Mangaverse for like $8. You know what I mean? Like it's completely forgotten about. I agree. Manga is a huge thing, guys. Manga is like massive, probably like dominates compared to comic books in general around the globe.
Totally, not even close. It's not even close. It crushes it. Yeah.
But I don't see comics going that route. Look at people, how they flock to Mark Spears this year, right? They fell in love with his art. They fell in love with different things related to Mark Spears. I just don't see manga coming to the forefront.
When I was living in Japan, like a long time ago, you'd go on the subway, like a train to go to the city, and you see businessmen reading manga, like in full suits, just be like, with unapologetically, like not even like trying to be like, oh, I'm reading a kid thing. It's like, yeah, manga, I'm reading this, and like
that's a cool thing to do there.
That's a cool thing, it was like legit.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think it would do well for Marvel and DC to embrace it a little bit and just have a line or a couple of titles with that style, I think it would work. But we'll see. I'd be surprised if we didn't see something from Marvel at the very least.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Matt? I saw you say
Oh, I
something.
was just gonna say, like, if you watched What If, which I haven't got into all of it, there's an episode where they're all mecha suits. That was from the Marvel Mangaverse, where the Avengers were all in mech suits.
Yeah.
Well, you remember we had Mech Strike not too long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
The Avengers, Mech Strike, yeah.
So, anywho,
So this one, variants released in 2024 that sold the most units, Independence.
yes. So Independence. So for the first time, we're gonna see Dynamite pop up on the list.
But let's take some guesses. What do you guys think is going to be on the list? You
I
don't
don't
have
know if we have time for guesses.
Okay, fine, you're right.
If Mark Spears doesn't show up a few times, this is major.
Mark Spears, yeah, it's like everybody discovered boobs again. But
It's a great topic.
It happens every 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
It happens every day. It happens every day. So
Yeah.
we got number 10, we got Uncle Scrooge and Infinity Dime number 1, J. Scott Campbell, the 1 in 50. Remember, like, there's a lot of variants out there. So 1 in 50 moves like water when it comes for Dynamite. Then next we have Penthouse number 1, Stemograph.
This was controversial because it was AI. He submitted the art. It was Stemograph on Instagram, and didn't tell them, and then they found out, but they still had to honor it. But then they had that article in the back called "AI Sucks." If you're
Yeah.
I mean, but like you can see, like, it still sold 115 units. So it was one of the more popular indie books. Of course, Will Jack's NYCC cover.
Yes,
we should.
I got to scroll up just for.
Scroll up. I didn't see it.
And a lot of people didn't see. Here's things that people don't catch, like this John Boy Myers Transformer 4 wraparound was it doesn't get talked about, but it's moving. And it's not a big dollar book, but people were buying it up. Okay, you're gonna have to move past this one a little bit too. But again, so we have Gun Honey. You can just maybe scroll back up a little bit, but just the top half.
you can put our kneecap in there.
No, don't go that slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Kneecap it.
Gun Honey.
Which book is that?
It's Gun Honey Collision Course number 1. Kyung Eum, the comic exposure version cover. These were like 158 copies sold, and they were just on fire. And now you're getting into Spawn, the NYCC Peach from Mocha, the signed one.
Oh, that one was crazy.
And we'll get back to it. But number 4, the Uncle Scrooge, Gabriel Dell'Otto, 110.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
I love that one.
You have number 3, you got the Mark Spears Monsters, the Mary Jane Campbell homage. Number 2 was Mark Spears Monsters number 1, the Bridezilla, and number 2 was Mark Spears Monsters number 2. Mark Keen Spot has 3 spots on here.
So that was number 1. Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that either.
So again, so to explain it, these are based on units sold. So it wasn't in terms of so number 1 was a surprise. It was harder to get, even though it still sold 217 units. This was then people just jumped into it. They're like, I got to get on board with number 2.
Yeah.
So number 2 then had more sales because it was more accessible. So it sold 244 copies, just about 20 was 244 versus 217. So you're talking like 30, almost 30 difference. So it was pretty darn close. But the only reason this got the number 1 spot was just because it was more accessible. Remember, it's units sold, not popularity. It's not a popularity contest in terms of. And plus, Bridezilla at the time was selling for $5-10. Bridezilla was $100 book really quickly.
And there were only 2,000 of those, Spears said, so it wasn't like there was a ton of those to be moved necessarily.
Wow, that's a good point.
So again, these were the variants that people were buying up a lot in the aftermarket. And you look back at that Spawn Peach Momoko, that was a $500-600 book. You look at the price, 160 were sold at a total of $45,000. So it was selling for a pretty penny. Literally, it was like worth fighting over. Apparently,
Phil has a good take.
Yeah,
get it, Phil.
More of the story. If you're not sure if anybody's going to buy your indie, just add some boobies.
There you go.
They'll buy it. Or at least more interested in taking a risk on that story.
Well, the comic exposure, like I said, the wrap up on this, on under this, I said, proving the age old adage that sex sells, and it does.
It does.
I mean, it sells this stuff every day, constantly.
The next list is a fun one. It's all comics that sold the most units overall. So of all, right, Matt?
So like throw everything into the mix, 2024 and everything before it. Like, how did 2024's books sort of like go against some of the old time big hitters, right? The breasted.
Yes.
Nice, JD.
Nice, JD.
We'll have JD on, and he can.
I think that's Lando's joke.
Totally
Yeah,
is.
was.
Thank you, guys.
That's right. He was just quoting you.
Love it.
All right, go for it. So we have number 10. We have Doom number 1. So this was 971 copies were sold. $36,000 tracked across those 971. Here we go. This constant mover ASM 3300 is just sold 986 copies at $682,000.
$682,000.
This is just a book you have to have it in your collection. If you're a Spider-Man fan, a McFarlane fan, a Venom fan, you have to have it. And enough, almost 1,000 people were willing to buy it in 2024.
It's the most classic second appearance ever. So yeah,
Probably the most liquid book in the market. I mean,
Completely, absolutely. Wolverine number 1, 1988, 996 copies, 94,000. This is still very affordable in terms of, like, you talk about like Wolverine keys, still pretty affordable. And then you got New Mutants 98. This is always on the list regardless, but a Deadpool year definitely helped it. Almost 1,200 copies sold at $636,000.
Jeez,
so
nice.
It's like $500,000 per issue for a lot of these.
Yeah. And then you got like Absolute Superman popping in with 1,200 copies. Granted, it's just only $6,000 because they're selling for $5-10. But it just goes to show that there was people wanted a copy and they just wanted to read it. Didn't matter that they had to go to the aftermarket; they just needed it. If you trickle down number 5, you'll see a common theme. You got number 5, Ultimate Black Panther. Number 4, Ultimate Spider-Man. These are going toe to toe with these big books. Yeah. And then you have like number 3 every year. This is on our book on the list every single year. Secret Wars number 8. It's kind of like these spider books are just like they're must-haves in your collection. Like you have to have one.
And after you get one, you gotta get a better one. That's
right.
That's why it keeps on constantly moving, right? Like, and I got one, but I don't have that 9.8. So now I'm going to trade this one. And I'm going to get that one. That's why they're they're in like every single trade there is. And
it's obtainable. It's only a $500-600 9.8 now, so it's not impossible to get. It was $1,100 at its height. So it's half the value right now, but still sells like crazy. And then you look at number 2, Absolute Batman's hanging in there. But what do you guess? What's your guess for number 1 before we
Spawn?
Get
it's always Spawn.
It's sure enough, you dig into it. Spawn number 1.
It's crazy.
It sold almost 2,000 copies at $120,000. This is, it helps to have high demand and a million print run, right? This is a book that's circulating, changing hands all day long, every single day of the week. It is always on our top 50.
They should build a Bitcoin around it.
Actually, if McFarlane did digital currency around Spawn, it would probably do very well.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel like Spawn fans have created this thing where it's like, guys, you know what? Let's troll everybody. We're gonna keep selling our copies amongst each other.
Yeah, I know, right? You just keep on reporting you sold it for $5, okay?
That's right.
There are LCS owners who always have one of these on the wall because it will sell every single day.
Yeah.
Right. So there's natural demand for this. I can't even imagine if they were to put out a Spawn movie that just really hit it out of the park, what the hell would happen? Because the fan base around this this book is rabid.
I think there's just too much saturation in the market of them to make it like crazy. I think it'll do well. It'll definitely double.
No, I don't think
triple,
it can ever explode in price because there's too much. But the Newsie's probably undervalued.
Yes, I agree with that.
I'm like finding issues as we go through and I'm sending it to my editor. And I'm like, can you fix this? Can you fix this?
It's pretty amazing, that list, that like you were saying, that some of the absolute and ultimate new stuff is contending with the older stuff, and the older stuff is making the list because this again is on units sold, right, Matt? This list, let me check real quick.
Yeah. This is still units. So 1788, and I mean it's crazy. This is a book that outsold even the hottest stuff. Like it's outsold Absolute Batman, which was the second hottest book. I mean, it's just crazy on how by 200 books. Like it's not just like, and plus like this also Absolute Batman has a ton of variants and that we're still selling with this thing. So, Spawn is just one of those books. It's been number one. The only takeaway which I think was interesting, is that this is the first year in 5 years that Ultimate Fallout 4 is not on this list.
Yep.
It dropped off for the first time, and that was a big surprise to me because it's always been Spawn and Ultimate Fallout 4 battling for number one.
Ultimate Fallout 4 is higher priced. I mean, it's not crazy. And then you have all of those new entrants, right, that are selling at much lower price. I can see that.
It's not a big Miles year. There's no big event. We're not in an animated film year. Oh, did the animated film come out in 2024?
No, it was
It's getting got delayed to 26 now. It sounds like, but
super delayed, and now all the like extra Spider-Man films have been canceled. So it's like, we're a few years away from a live action Miles. So, but.
There's a million spawns, dude, and they're more affordable than Miles. Everything,
yeah,
it's got a lot to do with this is a market of this is more of a buyer's market. This is what
people
are willing to spend, and I would be much more willing to, get a decent price on a really great spawn than I would on a mediocre Miles because I don't have, the additional hundreds it would have cost.
Yeah.
And just look at that cover again. Show that cover. Like, I'm sorry, but Spawn number one is
much more attractive cover too. That's a sexier book to have on my wall, in my opinion.
Yeah, that fluorescent green trade dress, man. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, man. The green, just like
Matt,
Todd went all in on that cover.
I was gonna ask, do you mind just going back? I just want to compare again the numbers of Absolute Batman and Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah,
this is across all variants, right?
No. This is just for the book you're looking at. Just the numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just that one cover does not include all the variants that fall under it. It would be massive.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, Ultimate Spider-Man was. I mean, you had like the Campbell cover that was pretty heavily ordered because people like to collect Campbell. But this cover A, was under ordered everywhere. It was sold out immediately. So there's a lot less of these, and this was going for a much higher price point than the Ultimate. The Absolute Batman.
Yeah, but the Ultimate Spider-Man Campbell, I don't believe that was for issue 1.
No, it was him and the one with him and Mary Jane kind of like dancing together.
One of the earlier.
It was on one of the variant lists.
It was on one of the lists.
But that's the 1 in 500.
No, the Virgin. So there was an open order.
Yeah.
And then the 1 in 500 was, I forget which one he showed, but the 1 in 500 was the same thing, but it was the Virgin version of it. So
okay.
Yeah, we showed the trade dress version.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get past all the naughty stuff. Oh, here you
go. No, bring it back.
I know that cover. It's a little icky.
Doing the hokey pokey.
Yeah, this cover. Yeah, I remember, and he had an exclusive for this.
There was a 1 in 500.
Okay.
Hey guys, I apologize. I've got a dip. Having a little bit of a issue with swelling here, and
no worries. Go for it.
Yeah. Hope
jump back on if you feel like it. We're here for you. If not, have a great night, Phil. Thank you.
I'm probably just gonna retire and watch the show from the comfort of my bed with the cryo machine to just
Well, thank you.
Always a pleasure, man.
Happy healing.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great show.
You too.
All right. So shall we do the next one here?
Yeah. So now we're at all variants that sold the most units. So across, this is every variant across the board. So now we're getting into some of just the steady movers. So now we have number 10. We have X-Men number 1, cover C, the Wolverine Cyclops Iceman cover. Number 9, we have Absolute Superman number 1, the Jim Lee foil. Number 8, you're seeing a common theme. Ultimate Black Panther number 1, the Boss Logic. Moon Knight is number 7, the Fist Khonshu Secret. And we're back to the Ultimate Spider-Man J. Scott Campbell for number 6. You get the gatefold cover for issue number 5 for X-Men number 1. You're at the Stegman cover for number 4 for Ultimate Spider-Man number 1.
I'm surprised that we're seeing more of the Campbell than this one. I feel like everybody is like overlooking this one because you have the full family here. First cover. I love this.
You can't Campbell covers, man. I mean, people love J. Scott Campbell.
I know.
And then we got the secret variant for Edge of Spider-Verse 1 is back on the list.
Go away, this book.
Great.
But here we go, the big two that outsell everything. You got X-Men. This Magneto cover is like Spawn number 1. It's constantly selling. Out of all the X covers, the Jim Lee X covers, people want this Magneto cover. It outsells all the rest. If you're going to pick one, everyone picks it. It's also the most valuable 9.8 out of the individual covers. And then we have number 1 is Spider-Man number 1, the silver edition of Todd McFarlane. I mean, this sold 797 copies. Like, these are books that they're not super expensive. This is a $15 near mint book. The X-Men, the Jim Lee X-Men covers are typically $15 to $20 in near mint. Like, these are huge nostalgia buys. Like, if you're trying to get something that you want to put on your wall, like, these are the books that you can go to and afford.
Hey, does your software distinguish between the bagged version with no price on it?
Yeah, you want to click on it? The title.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you'll go through and you'll see if you open up, we have every iteration.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. That's
possible. Yeah. And so we'll show the bag version and the non-bag version and the newsstand version and the Walmart gold. And I mean, like, there's this
the silver one. That one just it gets lost because it was a $2 bag version and $1.75 unbagged.
Yeah,
right. And there's no price on the up at the top. There's no price listed on the bag version when you take it out.
It's right there. Yeah.
I always like that gold version.
Oh yeah,
you're clicking the Walmart one, which is a nice pricey book. That is the one to get if you're looking for those.
Yeah, that's high on the want list, but the price point on that thing is out of reach.
Dude, I remember on the marketplace, this obviously not being eBay or anything, like I'm talking Facebook and etc. I was seeing so many Todd McFarlane books selling prior to his CGC in-house signing. It was ridiculous. Like, all I was seeing was every cover of Spider-Man 1, you Spawn, you name it. Like, it was just everything was flowing through the marketplace. It was wild, man. It was amazing to see.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Yeah. I mean, I bet it's a thrill for him to sign something that like he made 20 years ago, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
Like people are still valuing and holding,
I mean, he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
Doesn't he joke? Tells people don't buy this book. We printed 2 million of them. I think I've heard him say that to people on videos and things.
I mean, but it's such a great cover. I mean, when I think back, this was the first comic book story that I ever read. Like I picked my first comic was Youngblood #1, but this was this storyline, the Torment storyline was my first comic storyline.
I remember the room of my house I was in when I read this for the first time. For whatever reason, I was in my dining room. I never can envision the seat I was sitting in at the table, just being so into it. It wasn't my first, but yeah, there was so much anticipation for this thing when it came out. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah.
All right.
So now we are moving into sales volume. When we say sales volume, we're talking about the highest prices collectively sold. So not individual sales, but all the sales tracked together for a book, and we kind of like, listed them accordingly. I think we're on that, right? Comics.
Yes. Top sales value 2024.
All right. So we're looking at Marvel and DC. So again, you're seeing common themes. You're going to see a lot of repeat books. We have Edge of Spider-Verse 1, the surprise book. It was a hotter book than you remember, for sure. Ultimate Spider-Man #1, the Chichetto black cover. That was, I mean, so incredibly hot. Only 264 copies, but at $18,000. So,
and dude, it was going well over 200.
Yeah, it was a very expensive book. Number 8, the Bloodhound Red Band Wolverine Suspense Stories #16 homage. 132 copies, almost $20,000 collected. Now we're moving into Absolute Batman, the Ash Can from San Diego Comic-Con. Only 132, but 20,000 sold. Then you go to Absolute Batman #1.
My white whale.
I need this.
Yeah, we gave ours away on our live
We
stream.
held one in our hands.
194 copies, almost $33,000 collected in that one. And it's just, it only slowed down because it was a $200 book, $250 book. And then you get back into, again, this isn't just variants, but Doom #1 popped in with 970. Like, it's still sold. It was a steady $50 book. $36,000 was collected on this book. You know, even though it had a lot of copies sold, it still made a big chunk of change. And then you had
it popped though, like it went well above cover price.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a $50 book. It was way above. And then you keep #4. You'll see a lot of the repeats. We'll just scroll through. We have Absolute Batman #1, $38,000. Ultimate Black Panther 1 was #3. Blood Hunt Red Band Edition #1 was #2. And then #1, we're right back to Ultimate Spider-Man #1 again.
Wow, it took a year.
We tracked it. It was like 1,442 copies, $116,000. We tracked what the average. It sold for average $86 for this cover. Like if you spread that number, take that number divided by 1,442, it was like $80-something per book.
I mean, think about that for a cover A. Like, when was the last time a cover A from one of the DC or Marvel hit like that? It's been a long time, right?
Yeah.
Selling $90 for the cover A.
It's weird. It's like it started out for reading, and then it also turned into speculation at the same time. But
yeah, and I remember, I think a lot of people were overlooking the fact that the first appearance was not in this book, right? Like, I don't know if I remember people picking this up. They're like, yeah, #1 for first appearance. I'm like, no, time out, dude. Look at Ultimate Invasion.
Yeah. People forgot about the Ultimate Invasion,
yeah.
But this still outsold it all.
Yeah, it did.
So you kind of like
it's the same thing with Absolute. Like, the DC All In gets overlooked.
Yeah. Still, like when we were reporting, it was on our top 10 for at least a couple weeks. And then we were finding like, hey, there's a bunch of copies still for cover price at Midtown. Yeah. And like, if you want them, here's the link. It finally sold out, but it was, you could have still picked it up for cover price while it was selling for $30.
Yeah, LC Strange Academy. That's probably right. You have to go back to like 2020. That's probably the closest. Good call.
Yeah. You're great. All right, so next up on the list, we have the independents. So comics released just in 2024 by sales volume. So these were the independent comics, not just variants. They can be variants. That's the thing to remember, is that usually these volume lists are all variants. So the fact that former list was not all variants, that it was standard covers, is really impressive that they went toe-to-toe with variants, just to call that out. So we have the independents. We have #10, Cobra Commander, #1, the 1/100 foil. #9, Transformers 11, the James Herron Thank You.
Yeah, that's sick.
$11,000 attract. Spawn 350, the retailer Thank You, but the unsigned comp copies, only 4 sold, but $11,000.
You couldn't.
Only with 4 copies that makes this list, just because it was able to get up there.
But I feel like this was the first time I've ever seen where the signed book was selling for a certain amount, and then you have the unsigned book commanding such a coin, right? People are like, no, I want the unsigned one.
It's the rarity. It's like the rarity. And plus, there's people like myself that want the freedom to grade things and get a blue label. Maybe you don't want a yellow label. Maybe you don't like how Todd signs his name. Maybe you don't care about the signature. You just want the there's only a handful of these. So there's, you have to pay a premium for it.
I mean, I say it all the time on Long Story Short, when we're talking about like these con books that are heavily signed, and you look at the graded ones, and there's a disproportionate amount of signed versions versus unsigned. And I'm like, I kind of want the unsigned. I want the rarer one.
Yeah,
it's just a mindset thing when it comes to collecting.
Imagine if someone gets the unsigned version signed.
And when he does sign, he's gonna write T. McFarlane.
Nah.
Because
that's so funny. Yeah, that would be awful.
Why?
But get it signed by someone like Jim Lee, like who had nothing to do with the book,
or Rob.
All right, so next on, this will bring a throwback, but the Essentia 22 Camel.
What a mess this book would end up being.
$13,000. It made with 48 copies. It made $13,600 in the aftermarket. 48 copies. And then you go to number 6. You got Vampirilla, number 672 again, back on the list. $15,000 with just 127 copies. This was a steady $250 book even now. And then of course we're right back to Monsters number 1. It sold $17,000 with just 217 copies. And I'll say it I said it at the end, but I'll say it now. This Monsters would have dominated this list if it came out earlier in the year. The fact that it only came out in the last quarter is really what held it being back, like dominating all of these lists.
You have the 2025 list.
Right. It still could. And then we're right back to Spawn number 4, the 357 Peach Momoko, but the unsigned one. Now these were a little more accessible, but 71 copies, $17,500.
Wow.
And now number 3, we're right back to Spawn 350, but the retailer signed version, 45 copies is $17,000. So what the unsigned did in 4, they did in 45.
I mean, that tells a big story.
Number 2, Spawn 357, the retailer thank you, signed by Todd McFarlane, limited 300. 46 copies, $20,000. $20,500. And then the winner should be no surprise, but Spawn 357, the Peach Momoko, signed by Todd. 160 copies, but at almost $45,000. And so I said in the write-up, like, it's got to be number 1 when people will fight for it, literally fight for it.
It was a fake fight, though. Apparently,
it was a fake fight.
Yeah, apparently they didn't actually like duke it out. They ended up saying more things after the fact. There was no actual fight. I wasn't at New York Comic Con. Don't care if you're fighting for comics, guys. Jeez, take
a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Your blood sugar's low. Go have a snack.
Yeah, I mean, but you gotta imagine yourself there. You show up early in the morning. You get in line. You know that this book is selling for. It costs, I think, only $40 there at the convention, and you know it's already selling for $400. And it's like 4. It was like 3 per person. I think it was something like that. It was 2 or 3 per person.
Look, I would be upset too. From what I understood and what I heard is that there was something related to like some vendors themselves getting in prior to the people who were lined up outside. Yeah. And that kind of shafted those people, right? So that's where the scuffles came about, but no fists were thrown. This wasn't the UFC. It was still New York Comic Con.
I think it was part of the line. The line shifted or it started in the wrong place and they moved it. And it was, but I did hear like the story of the fight wasn't true. There were people that I knew who were there and it kind of got a little blown out of proportion.
Yeah, he said no fight.
Just all right, guys. Next this year in New York Comic Con, let's make a rumor. Let's make it big. Like there's a huge someone got stabbed over a comic book or something.
We're gonna do it at Chicago, and it's gonna be a fight over deep dish pizza. That's how we're doing it.
Good.
The big news that came out of New York Comic Con 2023 was that someone pooped on the ground.
Yes, I remember that.
I couldn't help it, Matt. We're walking around all day.
Jeez.
That was literally the wrap-up news. Was like someone pooped on the.
Right.
So good.
So that was what was that? That was all the independents in terms of volume, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't separate this out by variants because it was the exact same list, like literally beat for beat. Because typically, at least for this one, typically the variants dominate the list. It was the first one was not all variants, but it was pretty. The list was pretty darn similar. So we skipped it. We didn't do a variant focus for this, but it was definitely interesting to see. Like this was kind of like some of the biggest books, some of the most topical books of the year, that was moving in both volume and price at the same time. There are plenty of books that sold for like large prices, but not like. I mean, there's so many books like the Suspiria, Profane number 4, right? It had one sale and people talk about that book constantly. And it was like $100 sale, but it's now there's a copy listed for $1,000. So you never know what some of these will do. All right, so the next category we're going into more broad. We're going to all comics by highest sales volume. So now we're going to get into the heavy hitters. So number 10 is Giant Size X-Men number 1. 595 copies at 1.8 million.
Wow.
Number 9, Incredible Hulk number 1, 1962, 59 copies at 1.8 million.
That's impressive.
All-Star Comics number 8. What's that?
59. I wouldn't have guessed it sold that many this year.
Same. That's impressive.
Enough, yeah.
Wow.
All-Star Comics number 8 sold 9 at 1.9 million. We had Incredible Hulk 181, 613 copies at 2.4 million. Amazing Spider-Man number 1, 131 copies at 2.7 million. Fantastic Four number 1 is number 5 at 63 copies sold at 2.9 million. Superman number 1 with 5 copies sold at 3.1 million. Amazing Fantasy number 15 is number 3 with 86 copies sold at 3.1 million. And then number 2 is Detective Comics 27. 4 copies sold, 3.4 million. What do you think is number 1?
4 copies. I don't know. I'm going to say Action Comics.
Yeah, Action
Comics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, didn't it have like a massive sale this year that actually like shattered the record?
Yeah,
Right.
So it's interesting. 2 copies sold, 2 at 7 million. Now, there was a 3.0. So this was a lot of people were using this book as the market's dead or dying or hurt, whatever you want to call it, because a 3.0 sold in 2021 for 1.6 million. And then I don't know if it was the same book, but the same grade sold in November this past year, 2024, for 960,000. So
I think it was the same book. I think people talking about it. I think it may have been the exact same book.
So it lost about $600,000, which is a huge hit. But then in the same year, we had an 8.0 have the highest sale of any comic book of all time at 6 million in April. So there's 2 different stories there. Like I don't know what happened to that 3.0. If maybe there just wasn't, maybe there were more buyers there for it in 2021 than there was in 2024. Maybe someone just bowed out, didn't want to go for it. Like there's so many factors when you're like, if you stop to look at it, it'd be like a variant selling for 1,600 and then it ended up selling for 1,000. You'd be like, oh, that seems normal. I think
there were a lot of actions on Heritage this year, though. When they're coming up more, often, maybe that puts a lid on it. People want the higher grade, right? I mean, 8.0 must be near the top of the census. Is that the top of the census book for this?
I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, so top of the census. I mean, that's going to command a huge premium. So.
A few years ago, I went to an antique mall and I saw that cover, Action Comics number 1, and I was like, "What the?" And I got it. I picked it up, and I didn't see on the bottom left there was a 70-year reprint. It was like 1980.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Or as Tony said, that's the Loot Crate facsimile edition. That's sold for $2,000. I mean, there's a lot of reprints for that book.
Yeah. Here, let me share my screen and just real quick. Yeah, this one's a hard one to keep track of.
Jeez.
Imagine if you're going through some of these boxes and they have the facsimile in there, but it's like aged, and you're like, oh my god, is this it?
There's some of those facsimiles that are printed on very similar paper. I mean,
Yeah.
you can tell it's in too good of shape.
That's the one I have. I think it's that one. Nothing.
Yeah, dude. I had a friend of mine go through his dad's collection, and he found an Action Comics 1, and he's like, "Holy, you know what?" He's like, "Lando, you please tell me, like, what do I got here?" I'm like, "Bro, you have an anniversary issue." Relax.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Yeah. Wah wah.
Yeah. Like, hey, Lefteros has joined the building.
Man.
What's up, Terry?
So next we're going into our I think our almost final list. We got one more after, but it's the last list is a little light. But this is what my favorite section is all variants by highest sales volume. This is basically the kings of the aftermarket. The things, if you have you're doing quite well, you'll have a very happy payday from any of these. So we'll jump into number 10, which was a surprise to me.
Wow.
The Uniqlo Jason Poland cover, 7 copies, $30,000.
Insanely amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said it's a great cover. If you know the story behind Jason Poland, like you look at this cover, you're like, that's trash. But then if you know the story behind Jason Poland as being one of the most famous quick draw artists in New York, and like, I mean, it makes it a little more interesting and a little more.
His goal was to draw every person in New York City, right? That was his.
Yeah.
But I actually like the Spider-Man 1. Was the Spider-Man 1? Remember he did the other cover?
You're on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, and that when we talked about it in our Shaker show is sold for like $296 for a 9.6.
Yeah.
Now it's a $200 raw book, like $150, $200 raw book, which is crazy.
Wow.
So
yeah, I remember I was on
covers,
the panel that night and I was blown away, man.
and I remember, so this was a partnership with Marvel and Uniqlo, and you had to purchase $50 or $60 worth of the merch that had this collaboration, and then you would get one of these books with it. So I don't know how many people did that. The question is, it's always like, are there more of these floating around at some Uniqlo warehouse somewhere? Like, that's kind of the things you don't know what happened to that excess stock.
Yeah, it's not unheard of. It's only 2019. It's not like too long ago.
But this was also a clothing store that probably would have just thrown them away. Like, they weren't.
There's that box in the back of the store, where they store everything, and it's been on the ground for years now. Nobody knows what's in it, and it's full of these things.
Right, everyone go to your Uniqlo's, talk to the managers, befriend them.
Right, totally. I mean, yeah, go to the New York one and be like, can I just dig through your back room for a little bit? Just number 9, Absolute Batman #1, the Akira homage. It was, 190 copies, almost $32,000 in the aftermarket. So this book is a big book, and sure, the Jason Poland one only sold 7 to get to like a similar price.
Yeah.
But this is still, a book that everybody wanted. It was the Absolute Batman book.
There's another variant coming out of
the Joker one. Yeah. They went on sale yesterday.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that does.
I think it's still available, which tells you, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Number 8 was a surprise. It's back on the list from 2023.
Hey. Wow.
But again, a lot of people don't talk about this book because it was so hot the year it came out, and no one talks about it. But apparently, it's still selling quietly in the aftermarket. 77 copies at $42,000.
I never realized there was Daredevil up in the tree. We got Thor over here, I think, or something. No,
Miles is in the front.
Yeah. Is that Luke Cage?
Yeah, Luke Cage is right there. Yeah.
There's a whatnot version of this where like all the sellers there's like a comic.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's Spider-Gwen way back here. See her?
Damn, yeah, I see her.
Yeah.
Good eye.
I'm all zoomed in on this. Let's see.
And look, and I'm like 2 left to her.
Yeah, there you are.
There's me, right, like 2 over, right there. Look,
Is that you? Oh, hey, it's Matt.
it's me.
I didn't know.
But yeah, it's surprised to see this cover still pop up on the list. I did not expect it to come back a couple years later.
Yeah,
Number 7, Spawn 5357, the signed copy, of course, was the hottest convention book of New York Comic Con. And now we're getting into some old school ones, right? At least a little bit here. We were back to the era black cover.
Wow.
9 copies, $45,000 collected.
Wow.
what?
Yeah, it's kind of this black cover is just, I mean, this, I think there were 4 layers to this ink. So there's a bunch of different error versions of this. You get a lot of different variations in some of those errors. But this is missing the white spider webs on top of it, or at least the holographic spider webs to really. So it missed the whole
I
layer.
got a version where the printer must have been running out of the ink. It's still, mostly red foil, but you can see there's spots where it was not sticking, and there's black spots on it.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I would love this book. Blood Hunt pops back up for number 5.
Nice.
So this book was just 283 copies, 45,000 sold. But yeah, John just went to it. Number 4, Clone Wars, number 1. We're not in a Mandalorian year. We're not in a Ashoka year. This is a book that people are like, oh, it's gone down in value. But like, no, it's still selling 25 copies, $49,000 cracked on this book. I mean, this is the thing. It's like, you can talk about these books dropping, but you got to remember, these were like worth nothing 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Like, these were worth absolutely nothing. And the fact that this is now worth thousands of dollars, even as it stands now, it's like, I would love to have a copy.
Yeah, exactly.
Love to have a copy.
I always like your take on that, because you may have missed the peak, but like, it's not like it's worth nothing, and plus with any type of announcement, any type of news, all this could, it's one of the rarer ones, and it'll spike up again.
I mean, Ahsoka's such a cool character. Like, she's going to be around for quite a while, in many different iterations of her for the next 50 years. So, this is a great book to have in your collection.
There it is, the gold one.
The gold one, it was definitely the one that was designed to be a variant for this book.
Yeah.
So it's a more traditional one. It's a little easier to find than most, but it's still like, it really climbed the last 3 years. It went from like being somewhat affordable, like a $300 book, to now being not affordable.
Yeah, I'm always shocked when I see what the price is. I mean, this book is not really that rare.
No, it's not. Yeah,
the prices on it are bananas.
It's a $300 raw. It's in near mint, you're looking at $500 to $700.
Yeah, it's over $500. Yeah.
Wow.
$2,000 in a well, the last sale was in that last 9.8 sale was 1,015. So, but still,
if anyone's looking for like late Christmas presents to send me, anything on this list is fine. I'll accept it. Cool.
There you go.
And then we go into, like, for me, this is like, when I think about variants, early on variants, this was the one, like, I remember as a kid, like, people would talk about, and it was like this unicorn that it was like a people whispered of it existing.
That was the same thing when I was a kid. Like, there was a rumor there was a platinum version of this thing out there.
Right.
It was unverifiable.
Right. And you didn't have things like the internet. This is before, when we were kids, we didn't have such things as the internet. 81 copies sold, $79,000 tracked. I mean, this is a $700 raw book, $1,500 9.8 all day long. So and this is a book I would never sell. This book if I have one, a 9.8.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah, it's you talk about such an iconic cover, and this is the most premium version of that cover. Like, yeah, don't ever let this book.
Do you think this cover is the most homaged cover in all of comics?
It is the most homaged cover of all time. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, ASM 300's got to be close.
JC said, "Okay, there, Grandpa Matt." Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you look at the most homaged covers, Todd McFarlane has Probably the most. You got ASM 300. You got Spider-Man 1. We could go down the list.
Hulk
forever.
340. I mean,
Where he says not into air books is lame. I get it. Like, it's not for everyone, and it's hard to verify. And I mean, I've heard things about the bone white ones, like the bone, like you can take a hair dryer and take the foil off. There's all these little things that does make things a little. You got to be wary of it. And then here comes Ninja Comics saying I only had two copies of it.
Oh, that sucks. Only 2?
Well,
now,
poor guy.
a callback to the Walmart. I believe that is far more rare than this one. The Walmart gold second print newsstand.
You're probably right. Yeah. What is it? Platinum?
It's not platinum. It's not platinum, but it's. I think it is. I think it actually. Yeah. I think that there's far fewer of them, at least graded at this point.
So in terms of like,
really nice too.
I'll take the platinum logo over the barcode difference. That like I don't like paying a premium for the barcode. That's just me. But people do. They're pretty rare.
Well, it's a distinction of rarity. It's just that one little thing that makes it kind of cool.
All right. So next up, number 1, Ultimate Fallout 4. Number 4, the Jervik, 1 in 25. I mean, here we go. 43 copies sold, almost $200,000 tracked. So this is a $10,000 9.8 still. So we were saying okay, you got to imagine. Sure, at its height, it was it was like $43,000, I believe.
Yep. Almost 50, yeah.
And now it's a $10,000 9.8. That is quite a drop, absolutely. But this is a 14-year-old book. Like this is. And it's a $10,000 variant. It's a 14-year-old book that's worth $10,000. I'm like, can we just sit in that and recognize that that's pretty freaking incredible? That this when it was selling for 43, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if I go through our data and I'll say how many of those sold for over $12,000, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There were about 20 copies that sold for those above $10,000. 20. So it's not like it was too crazy. There was just a little blip in space and time where this was going nuts.
I wish you made us guess what number 1 was, because I would not have come up with this.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't know.
Especially factoring the nosedive it's taken, right?
Yeah, right. But it's still selling, and it's smart that people. It doesn't surprise me that this would be number 1, because if you are invested in comics, you absolutely know that this is the lowest it's been since. Let's take a look back. This is the lowest it's been since 2020. So yeah, we're back to 2020 prices. And we have not seen a live action version of Miles yet.
And it's guaranteed going to happen in a span of 3 years. 3 years. Because guys, look, the way I see it, the Secret Wars comes out 2027. Yeah. Once that's done, we're done with multiverse stuff, guys. We're gonna go back to just normal stuff, and they're not gonna miss their shot to bring him in.
Yeah. Lando knows someone who took a pretty good bath on this a couple years ago. You do, huh?
Not the smartest thing I've ever seen in my life, dude.
So I mean, for me, I don't know if it'll ever get back to that $43,000 limit, but I mean, we should also we hinted at all the time. A lot of people don't realize that there's a secret variant for Ultimate Fallout 4 that no one talks about. But it's true. If you ask Bendis about it, there was when they went to go do the second print, they had they did a proof copy of black and white version of the mask being revealed.
Yeah.
And they looked at it, they didn't like it, so they went back to the color version, and then they did the interior page second print. But they only printed about 40 to 50 of the black and white one that went to just the creators and the people who worked at Marvel. They were told to never sell that copy as long as the staff, the people that were there that worked at it, were still at Marvel. So like there's
I don't think no one's ever surfaced, has it? Has one ever?
That no one's ever talked about it. No one's ever surfaced it, but it exists.
We were reaching out to our source who has one, who we are trying to get a picture of, but he's yet to reveal the picture.
Yeah, I do know someone who has a copy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. I mean, if I would just guess, I would guess that it's a $20,000 raw book right out the door.
I would say more. I would say more.
Potentially more, but it would be like how would you generate? So that was pretty much all of our list. And before we get into the last one, I mean, you're talking. These are just the books that are trending. You know, you have. It was interesting to see Eminem pop up. It was interesting to see that Jason Poland unique low variant pop up. It was a surprise for me to see some of these books that people are still paying very large premiums for in the aftermarket. Whether they're dropped in price or not, it's still number one. Like some of these are still the hottest variants that you can buy out there.
Yeah.
So I mean that's something to remember. If you have $10,000 to spend, yeah, pick one up. But if you don't, I mean, I don't know. I can't. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think it could ever drop any more past $10,000 in a 9.8?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if the economy really gets smacked hard, for sure. Like, I mean, you know,
what could you see its ultimate floor being? Like, at what point would you be like, "Oh crap, I'm going to buy a copy"?
I mean, I think if it breaks down to 5,000, it's not going to hang around there very long. But exactly. I would say that, like, in a difficult economic environment, you could see people selling it maybe down that far, but I don't think it would hang around there for that long. But I think that's probably it. I don't think it's going back to. I don't think it's going to do a full round trip going back to where it was.
40,000.
Oh, it won't get to that 43 ever again. I don't.
Well, no, not the 43, but the you know two or three. You know, some people are throwing out. I would be very, very, very surprised.
I wonder if I mean, I agree that the economy probably will have a huge effect overall, but I wonder for that price point, I wonder if people who are able to purchase something for like 20,000 are they're not too worried about the economy. I wonder if they're going to wait to have it go down and then just buy it right back up again. You know, because people who are at that level, I think, are already like economy safe to some extent.
Yeah, but the problem is that there's a lot of comics you can buy at that point in time in that environment. So there's a lot of golden age, and there's a lot of stuff that's coming for sale. It's not just that book. You know what I mean? There's probably a bunch of stuff that is probably going at discount prices. So how do they prioritize the people who aren't worried about $5,000 here, $10,000 there?
Yeah. So, I keep saying, especially when it comes to Miles, like, yes, I know in today's time we talk about the MCU and stuff like that, but I always think my kids, I have two boys, and they're watching, you know, Spidey and His Amazing Friends. They're watching the Miles Morales Spider-Man at the forefront. They watch the animated, right, Beyond the Spider-Verse, all of that stuff. Sorry, Across the Spider-Verse. They love it. They love Miles Morales to the point where they acknowledged him as Spider-Man rather than Peter Parker. So I look 20 years from now.
Yeah.
That book right now is, you know, like Ben was saying, if it drops down to that range of 5,000, 4,000, snag him. It's not going to stay like that for forever because the kids upstairs probably going to want to buy that up in the future. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. Imagine in a live action film, you have a live action Miles Morales holding a dead Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like,
oh my god!
And you're like, and Miles is there to pick up to be that next. You know, what is the term they brought up in Wolverine Deadpool?
Anchor beam.
Yeah. Like Miles was the anchor beam for the Ultimate Universe. Well, no, Spider-Man was when he died. The universe started crumbling.
Guys,
essentially. Yeah.
Secret Wars, the movie, they're adapting, you know, from the Hickman run. Miles came through that run, guys. There was that run.
Right.
Fair. It's fair. All right. Last list.
Last list is kind of like just a top 10 of the top 10. So it was a very light wrap up of everything. So you're going to see a lot of similar books. So we'll just go through it, but this will be we'll take you back a little bit. So Avengers Twilight was on our list 5 times. This was a super hot book this year.
Yes.
That was probably my favorite Marvel read of the year. I really love that.
Starsky, baby.
Yeah, I mean, people kind of forget about it, but at the beginning of the year, it was the hottest thing. 5 times it was on the list 5 times. Then you had number 9 was Uncanny X-Men 251 on the list 5 times, all because of that one
fucking
10-second clip. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, I mean, we'll wrap it up. We'll get into content at the end of this. But number 8 is new X-Men number 114 because of X-Men Deadpool Wolverine. It was on the list 5 times. And then you have number 7, Ultimate Black Panther number 1 was on the list 6 times. Number 6 was Wolverine 88. And we already fixed on mine, it's already fixed those images. We just needed to refresh.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Number 6 is Wolverine 88. Again, Wolverine Deadpool on the list 6 times. Absolute Batman number 1 was on the list 8 times. 8 weeks in a row it was on the list.
Feels like more.
2 months. Number 4, of course, like Spawn, it comes and goes and comes and goes. It comes and goes off the list 8 times this year. It's been on and off the list.
Are we gonna guess number 1?
Yeah, if you want to guess. So number 3 is Doom. Number 1 on the list 10 times. Okay, Ultimate Spider-Man is number 2 on the list 10 times. Now, what's your guess for number 1?
I was gonna guess Ultimate Spider-Man number 1.
Ultimate Spider-Man 1. And Lando, what do you think?
For a little, it was related to Deadpool Wolverine.
So yeah, it's New Mutants 98. I was gonna say the banger year it has to be.
All right. Oh
yeah, it only makes sense.
On the list, also 10 times. Technically, this was a 3-way tie between those 3 books. They were all on the list 10 times. So technically, they're all. You're right, Ben. that it was also probably a tie for number 1. But this was the one that just outsold them all too, so it kind of took that top spot. But 10 times on our list throughout the year. So you know.
Well, if anybody wants to read this is live on the website. So just go to coverprice.com and go to the content section, and you'll see this, and you can read through this and add them all to your wish list, send them to your friends. But any final stuff to discuss?
We were going to talk about, so real quickly, we were talking about content and how content fix. I'm just noticing an error, so I'm letting my editor know to fix something. He has the wrong outro on here. So I got to get that corrected. It's pulling in from last year's report.
Well, what's your prompt for the content?
Here, one sec. Let me just text him here.
I think we had someone ask earlier on, how do we feel the films will impact the market in 2025? I think that was the question that Matt held for the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. What do you think, Ben?
I mean, they always play a big role, for sure. I would say if they bomb, it probably doesn't bode well. It they won't be there to help comic book sales. So what am I? Obviously, Superman. Everybody, that really needs to work. If that misses for whatever reason, it probably puts that whole DC project in limbo a little bit. And and then the Marvel project that I think really needs to work. I think Thunderbolts and Cap might get a pass because it was sort of those were put together in a time when Marvel was trying to figure themselves out. But Fantastic Four really seems to be the movie that is sort of the lead into what's coming with Doomsday and with Secret Wars. So I think that's that movie really needs to hit it out of the park. But we'll see. I mean, I watched them all. I can admit that they haven't been. I'm not as hypercritical about them as I think others. I will acknowledge that they haven't been, ever since Endgame, they haven't really lived up to the prior standard. But I'm hoping they're all bangers. They hit them out of the park. They all break records. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, what about you?
No, I was just gonna say I agree with you. Those are the two big movies. I think Thunderbolts is gonna surprise a lot of people.
Oh, I think that'll be
a lot of
entertaining as
fans will
hell.
be
I
blown
really
away.
do. Yeah.
But yeah, how will it impact the market? One thing I've noticed is, post COVID, post Endgame, a lot of these movies, etc., we're not seeing books spiking as much. Like I thought Deadpool, New Mutants '98 would hit even higher numbers than it did, but didn't hit. There's many books that obviously will. You're always going to see it. It's going to come up. It's going to come down. I think the one that surprised everybody the most was Dazzler in the recent years, like building into to Deadpool. But how will it impact the secondary market? I think it's going to stay the same way. You know what I mean? Currently, where we're at right now, Fantastic Four. How do you want to spec on that? Go buy Herbie books. Remember that the Herbie book exploded.
Your Star Fox. How's people doing with their Star Fox?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't see anything really exploding. All these characters that we're getting now within the MCU, especially when it comes to Fantastic Four, you want to go get those first appearances. Well, I wish you all the best. It's not as easy as you think. But yeah, no, I'm more excited for the content that's coming. It looks like we're finally shaping back into what we got used to back in the day. Movie content wise, even Disney Plus or whatever it is. Look, the Penguin, guys, holy, you saw what happened. He just won.
Yeah.
Won an award. And what was
production value and everything, I think, is going to play a big factor. I think like you said, we've all kind of gotten sick of comic book movies because of they're just the treatment. But now, just like reflecting these lists, like the story is selling. The story is really what is starting to make a big difference. If James Gunn can pull off the DCU, if Fantastic Four kind of brings it all back together again, I'm hoping that it kind of invigorates everything. And we always see comics. Media influences comic sales. Ever since we started CovrPrice, we've seen that.
Yeah.
Whether it's to an extent,
things will only start to make sense by Doomsday. That's where you're going to be like, okay, here we go. We're going to get the one punch.
Yeah, they're gonna get. Ever since Endgame, it seems they've been putting out movies with no plan. Right? There was no roadmap. There was no vision. So it feels like, and I'm not expecting like huge spec around these. Like I think a lot of people got burnt pretty bad on spec, but if you get strong movies, I still think it supports comic book sales more broadly, right? I'm not
like Craven.
Yeah.
So there was like some of my thoughts on this is that especially when it comes to content, this is one of the other reasons why people think the market's down or comic books are dying, that the fair market is value. Not only have people been priced out of like a lot of those expensive books, but you're kind of seeing this great lull in content speculation. If you go back to when we tracked this, we have a whole presentation on it, but we tracked the spike happening on content happened around Captain America Civil War. Mm-hmm. When Civil War popped up, everyone had a copy of that in their collection, and they were suddenly selling for $30. And people are like, this is a book that's been $1. I can now sell it for $30. That mindset just shifted the entire community, the entire industry into this speculative, like everything was moving. You saw a character's elbow appearance in a trailer, and people were buying the book on it. There was that, remember Spider-Man No Way Home? They were like, oh, it was Hydra Man and Molten Man, and there was so much speculation out of that, and Doctor Strange. And I can't tell you how many books were moving out.
Think about the WandaVision spec. that might have been peak speculation, right? Who is the
Marvel was supposed to appear in that one?
Yeah.
Sorry, Ben, I talked over you.
No, it was like Blue Marvel. Like, was he the engineer or whoever? It was rampant.
And everyone wanted to buy something. All these keys were just going for premiums after premium, and it never felt like a lull because there was always another Marvel project coming in right after it. Yeah. So like a new trailer would pop up and replace it. So you didn't feel like this down market because there was always something replacing it. Then we got hit with a bad couple years of films, and people were just, Eternals was that first hit where people were like, oh, this isn't good. I don't like this. I'm going to, then the prices of that drop. And it just started snowballing from there to now where we are, where Marvel had to take a couple years back and there wasn't a lot of content and a lot of news, especially lately. After the past 3 years, there wasn't the rampant news that they were putting out at the beginning. So a lot of that slowed down. And so people were like, oh, the market's dead. It was only because there was no content news and no new content news. So as we gear up into all these upcoming films, you're already seeing signs of like that Wolverine, what Wolverine and Deadpool did. Well, all these books were moving in the aftermarket. They weren't selling for like huge premiums, but they were trending in a big way. And a lot of little books, no major keys. But you have multiple films and multiple projects happening again, and DC's kicking into full gear. You're going to start seeing all these different Green Lanterns popping up, like trending. Yeah. You're going to see all these miscellaneous characters because Gunn likes to pop all these random characters in. We're going to see a huge boom, and you're going to see all these people being like, "Oh, the market's back! The market's back! We're back!" You're going to see all these new stories about how everything's back again. But it's still the same cycle. All those books, the same books are going to die that got hot. They're going to dip back down. It's just the cycle. We just rode that last cycle out.
Yeah, I kind of like. I don't even consider this speculating, but what I kind of enjoy doing is like, example. Now we're gonna have Captain America: Brave New World coming out. You spoke about the Eternals. I know a lot of people hated that movie. I actually enjoyed it. I mean, there was very important things that took place within the movie. But now we have Tiamat. You have Brave New World coming out. Talk of adamantium. Tiamat's probably made of adamantium after being touched by Cersei. If you followed the Jason Aaron run of the Avengers, that was their Avengers headquarters afterwards. So I like speculating.
Oh, really?
In a different way, where it's like, you know what? Like I kind of want to buy that book, because then when it does happen, not that people are going to flock to it, but I'm just happy to have this in my collection, right? Kind of seeing story-wise where things are going. I look more at that than the actual first.
The trophy, like you got your spec right?
There you go. I have this one, but it's not for sale, guys. Like, I'm just happy I have it.
Right. So content will always be a big factor in the aftermarket. It absolutely will, and it's going to come back in a big way. This year was a reader's list. It wasn't very content speculation driven. I think we're kind of in the lull. We're in the eye of the storm a little bit here, where we're in the middle of this down era of content spec. But man, when something clicks again and Marvel is back and Superman hits, and now we're like back with the DCU, you're going to see a huge wave of speculation again. You already see people want to spec, which is why Dazzler was so popular. They want to speculate. They want to buy.
It's spec.
I just need a really bad spec to get behind, like Dazzler, like Taylor Swift.
Right. I mean, so you never know, and a lot of them will be bad speculations. But the thing that we always come back to, like, if you look back at what the characters were doing pre-speculation, granted, a lot of those books are not at the all-time highs, but almost every case, the book is higher because of the content appearance. Then, like now, after the dust has settled, like Shang-Chi's value is way over what it was pre-speculation. Even Eternals is like, I think, $100 more than it was pre-speculation.
It doesn't hurt knowing when you put more eyes on something. Look at Super Bowl commercials. You put attention into a little bottleneck, and people are interested in it. So prices start going up.
But I'm surprised. Look, now we got Jason Momoa, right? Casted. Yeah, okay, the book is spiking, but I still think Omega Man 3 has, like, it should be higher. I'm surprised it's still going at the price it's at, even with the news.
It's because people don't like the cover. That's the thing.
Probably.
That's also like
the cover holds people back.
I've got this whole thing where there's the first appearance of characters, and then there's when they become the character that you know and love. Yeah. And there's lots of examples. And that version of Lobo is not the Lobo that people. The version of Lobo people love is Lobo #1.
Yes.
The famous Simon Beasley cover, right? So.
Same thing with Deadpool, right? I mean, like, if you think, not so much, because the New Mutants '98 wasn't that.
Yeah, he looks like it. The Deadpool one, but it was really his solo series. that Kelly wrote that really kind of put Deadpool on the map. Elsa Bloodstone, the same thing. Her solo series. If you read that character, you're like, this is not Elsa Bloodstone, right? She's a dumb blonde. But it was Warren Ellis, right, coming out when he made her a redhead and more of an angry Brit, where she kind of took on the character that we know today. There's countless examples of that, but
love it.
I have a fun. I'm trying to see where I put it, but I have a fun. Oh, here it is. So it's actually an international Lobo cover. So if you kind of look at it, like it's die cut.
There's little hearts.
And there's little hearts, and then underneath is a giant orgy with Lobo in the middle of it.
That's fantastic.
Like it's very. I don't think it's actually too racy. I should open it up, but it's hard to find this book.
Careful.
Yeah, it's all hidden. It's all hidden stuff. So you could just that's inside
Epic.
the die cut. Yeah.
There you go.
Lobo, my man.
So the little hearts.
That's a good one. That's a fun find.
So, yeah, there's a lot of great Lobo covers out there, and I think you were already seeing like Green Lantern 55 is like on fire right now. Like it's like I had a copy of that back in the day, and I wish I still had it right now. It's one of those books I regret selling.
Yeah. So should we wrap it up?
This is pre-cover price, of course.
Thank you, Matt, your content team for putting together the. I know this is a huge ask every single year that you guys really do. So thank you to you and Bobby and everyone else who worked on the list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so much more data. Like we literally had the top 500 of everything, and we had the top 10 newsstands and the top 10 subsequent printings, and so we pulled all this data, but it was just too much to like kind of go through.
And if the audience, if anyone has any ways, any way you want us to slice the data, reach out to Matt, because we're putting out lists that we think are meaningful and interesting to you guys. But if there's a certain way that you're like, hey, someone said like normalize units by something, like let us know. Reach out to Matt at coverprice.com, or me, John at coverprice.com, and we will take a look and see if we can do that.
If someone can break it down by era, that will take a million years to cover.
Well, not, but pretty soon we're going to have that on the site. But thank you, Mr. Longshore and Lando and Phil, who was here. Any last words? When you guys? How can people find you guys? Where can people watch your shows?
Nobody wants to find me, but I do a show. I do a show on Nearing Nirvana on Thursday night with Aaron Yee and Mercenaut and Red Hood and a few other people who pop on, and we just talk about really kind of more obscure off the run type books that we think people should be paying attention to. But and then I'm on IG if anybody cares.
I can't wait to join that because that's my favorite stuff to do. It's just talk about things that are you're pretty much just talking about books you love. And that's what I kind of
and it's books that most people are probably unaware of, right? I mean, they're just like cool books that people are unaware of, just raising awareness. So
I love it.
And there's always a cause and effect of people you'll see some sales for that book usually pop up after you talk about them or anyone talks about them, and it's simply not because it's speculative. I need a copy now. It's usually like, I love that cover, I want a copy of that, right? And it happens to me all the time where I'm like, now I gotta go find this book in the wild. I gotta find one. It happens every week where we'll write about a book and I convince myself that I then need that book.
Matt, you did that to me. You did that to me with that Mega Man, the Game Informer one.
Oh yeah. It's still back. Where would it go? Oh, it's right here.
Yeah. Like now, he has me looking high and low for a high grade copy because it's
you can't find a high grade copy. Good luck. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, I'm a huge Mega Man fan, of course, and this was one I bought. I don't know, a couple of years ago. I got to get it graded, but it's pretty. So
I'm still looking for that second print for you, Matt, from the from the his first appearance.
Oh, for Mega Man #1, yeah.
Yeah.
Our developer found one. They accidentally bought it, just by accident, and like that's the only reason we knew it existed.
Huh.
So the copy that's on our site is their physical copy, because we couldn't find a picture of it. So sometimes that works that way, where we'll just take a picture of our own books and put them on the site. But yeah, it's impossible. The stuff I'm looking for is like weird, off the radar stuff. So it's kind of,
I know the problem.
You're a weird, off the radar guy, Matt.
well, it's kind of like it's like what Longshore said. It's like sometimes you gotta. It's all about finding the book, and hunting for the book, and it's like also like going into a collection, going into a store with nothing that you're looking for specifically, but just willing to go through a book and be surprised by something,
Yeah.
And we kind of say all the time, if you love a cover, if you're like, this is a great cover, pick it up, because most likely someone will feel the same way towards that cover. It doesn't always have to be a $10, $50, $100 book. A lot of the times that just comes with it because of awareness over time. So it's kind of that's how I've approached collecting comics. It's just the casual hunt and seeing what pops in my radar. And I know, Ben, you're the same way.
Yeah, I was always, whenever I went out looking for something, I never found it, so I stopped going out looking for things, and I just let books find me. So it's a lot more enjoyable that way.
Very, very zen of you. Just receive. And what about you, Lando? Where can people see your stuff?
Well, guys, don't look too far, because I'm back here tomorrow night. Top 10, baby. Here we go.
Right.
I'm excited. Is that
Right.
It's going to be the first top 10 live show of 2025. So I'm.
Oh, that's right, because we just had a Shakers list. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
No more on the Shakers. I got booted out, man. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't get booted out.
We'll just start our own. Wait, this is our own Shaker show.
Yeah, let's just do it. But yeah, you can find me here tomorrow night, and of course over on my channel. I have a channel. It's just Black Crown Comics every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, going through the cover price, left arrows, FOC list of the week. Then we go
the
through
Baker Shakers,
some shakers, the Baker Shakers, the daily shakers that you guys. It's crazy because even when I was on the show on Thursdays, just from Thursday to Sunday, the amount of daily shakers, record-breaking sales that take place, I'm just there. I'm like, man, it never ends. The market doesn't sleep, guys.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't stop. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people think it's down. I mean, a lot of people move to nostalgia for. I mean, I know we got to end this show, but nostalgia is a huge driver in what people are picking up right now. It's the rule of 30. What was popular 30 years ago is now moving. So if you follow that rule, and you're ahead of that game of what's going to be in the next couple of years, then you'll do pretty well.
Yeah.
Like we on our Shaker show, we keep coming up with all these cartoon-based books.
And video
One
games.
thing was that,
and video games.
and video game. I mean, I think Longshore covered it, or I was on Mercenaries channel or someone's channel. I forget, or maybe it was the flip side, where you guys were. I had it on my list too, but there was a Sonic variant that sold for $900. Like,
Yes, sir.
it was just a regular. It's like the IDW. I think it was issue like 20 or 19.
Yeah, it was a 1 in 10. Yeah, with $900.
1 in 10, $900, and I had to triple check that number because it was like, there's no way that's legit, but it's legit. It's crazy.
I think Sonic 23, the 1 in 10 by Food Drain, sold for $465.
Yeah.
Raw.
Yeah.
Wow. People love Sonic. Blue hedgehogs.
But they're not even keys.
No, they're not.
Yeah, but they're tough. I mean, scarcity, right? That's a huge part of the market.
It is.
Right? There's only so many first appearances you can really chase. There's lots of other interesting stuff out there. So
So much. And that's the thing of like, get ahead of the game. Like, pick up the stuff that you think is going to pop. And there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, folks.
Guys, yeah, thank you very much. Everyone who's watching, the new show's the comics covered is going to be Mondays at 6 p.m. moving forward instead of Fridays. So be sure to tune in next week. Don't forget tomorrow.
That's the top 10.
And then Shakers on Thursday at the regular time. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Let's see what happens in 2025. Let's meet back in a year.
thank you, Phil.
All right, thank you, guys.
Bye.